Alright everybody, how's it going? Awesome Soul here, and today do I have one hell of a video for you. So, in my last video I brought up that there was an Ask Me Anything done on Reddit, hosted by Mark, the lead designer and the CEO of FreeJam. So a lot of information came out of that, and like I said last time, I didn't quite have the time to cover every single bit of news, but I took the time today, and when I say time, I mean a lot of time. I've spent, at this point, probably 6 hours? No, probably like 4 or 5 hours just sort of cropping images and writing the script for this thing. And that's not including the B-roll that I have to capture and then editing. So, anyways, you get the idea. This is a very involved video, but hopefully you gain something out of it. So, sit tight, and I guarantee you there will be something for everyone in this video to look forward to. Without further ado, let's get into it. So, will there be more game modes? Yes, eventually, Mark says. He seems to like the King of the Hill idea that was posted. So a King of the Hill game, that could be pretty cool. Quality of life features. Quality of life features are now going to be a somewhat higher priority. These are things like undo and reorganizing garages, etc., etc. On the topic of new movement parts, that was brought up. So, the focus currently is on weapons and modules, but once they feel that they are in a good state with those, they will switch back to movement types, which will be interesting to see, because he does like the idea of dragonfly wings, so more air movement types. That will be very interesting to see. And interesting to see how they implement them exactly. A racing game mode was brought up, because, you know, why not? It is a pretty big thing in the community. Not massive, but it does come up in conversation fairly often. And the answer is yes. But only once they add more, I guess, main game modes, and then they will tackle racing. Racing is sort of like a really involved side game mode. At least that's how I kind of picture it. Because they would have to have brand new mechanics to keep it interesting, like maybe some sort of Mario Kart-esque power system, and then boosters, and they would have to tweak each map to make it racing friendly. Like F-Zero style pit stops. I don't know. How does the matchmaking work? So at the moment it is done by robot ranking, but when Phase 2.5 is released, sort of mid-April, I believe that's when they were planning to have that out, it will be ranked by CPU, because robot ranking will no longer be a thing. And then, of course, player skill. Now, interestingly enough, weapon types and equipment, i.e. movement parts and jammers, modules, that sort of thing, are not taken into account when doing matchmaking, just due to the absurd amount of hybrids. Because you could have one single SMG on a bot, and that would be classified as an SMG bot. But it's only got one SMG, so that's not really that useful in a close quarters kind of role. So if you've got like one person on the team who has one SMG and then someone on the enemy team with like 10 SMGs, that's unfair to the other team. And to implement some sort of system would take a lot of resources that could be pointed elsewhere. That's just my personal addition to what Mark said. A drop item system after the match, trading, and Steam Workshop support. They do like the idea of random drops, and even cosmetics. So that'd be kind of interesting. At the end of a match you get a chance of getting a box, and in this box would be I don't know, anywhere from like a single cube to a golden dev supporter flag. Although I don't see them adding those, because those are supposed to be really special, and you know, you throw all your galaxy cash in as a I support the devs type thing, rather than just, you know, I'm getting a cool weapon. Just sort of like a donation to the devs to keep them going. That's the way I've always seen the dev supporter flags anyway. Trading. So trading is sort of hard for the economy, and it causes a lot of balance issues, so it's not really on the table right now. And they're currently thinking of ways to use the workshop, but again, nothing at the moment. Why not give Megabots their own tier? Mark answered they want to fit the Megabots into the game. Or sorry, let me try that again. They want the game to fit together and make sense. There we go. That's a lot better. So having one tier for super massive bots seems a little odd when every other bot in the game uses the same CPU system. And then seemingly out of nowhere, you've got these massive huge bots all in their own tier, completely off to the side. So Mark feels that doing that would push Megabots even farther out of the game than they are currently. And Megaplate buffs. All Megaparts are in the process of being balanced for normal bots. I believe this question does come up again, so watch out for that. Let me see here. What else do we have? Will the garage limit be increased? FreeJam are currently working on a new personal server system rather than relying on others for their servers, so hopefully that will mean a lot more uptime. Although there haven't really been too many downtime issues as of late, which is very nice. But once they have their own personal servers, they will be increasing the Garage Bay cap to 100 for everybody, which I am quite happy about. And the hub. Now, for those of you who are new-ish, or for those of you who have been around but for whatever reason have not heard of the hub, it is essentially a social game mode. So you would queue up, you would go in, and it would be like, oh hey, look at my cool art bot. And then you would just chat about how super awesome your art bot is. Or, I don't know, how much you like potatoes. It's just a social, have fun, drive around, bump into people, and talk kind of game mode. So, it is still planned, and it is in the pool of, quote, more game modes. And those game modes are being worked on after the final tier removal step, aka Phase 2.5 in mid-April. Here we are. What are the future plans for electroplates? They are not quite sure at the moment, and from what Mark sort of said, it seems like he's recognized that electroplates are a little underpowered at the moment, which is good. So they have considered making electroplates into a module-like item, i.e. you would have to activate it, but it would drain power while they're activated. But of course, when they're activated, they would be far more powerful than the currently always-on electroplates. Which, I'm not sure how I feel about the idea. It could be interesting, but I think they would need a fairly big rework if that was the case. But again, that was just a random idea, not 100%. You know, they're not quite sure what to do with them at the moment. Any plans on changing helicopters? No. What about rotating platforms? No guarantees, but they will return to the idea once all of the, quote, obvious things are done. Any movement type reworks and fixes? Yes. For one thing, they want to add strafing to all movement types, which is quite nice. Improved aerofoil stability. Make walker legs, aka insect legs, catch less, which will be very good for those of you, like myself, who quite enjoy their insect legs. Give wheels more grip, slide less, and flip less. And later on, they talked about how tank tracks are very odd. They also want to fix those too. And they will be putting work into these areas fairly soon, they say, which is definitely good, especially for all of the tank drivers out there. Because I've never really been into tanks myself, but I have played around with tank tracks recently, and wow. I really feel for you guys. You're just wobbling all over the place. It's ridiculous. Will clans require Galaxy Cash to make? No, clans will be free to make, which is quite nice. What else do we have? Ah, yes. Any plans for a command/control/support module? They want to add more support options into the game. And they actually have something support-related in the works, but no word on a release date or any further information. At the moment, anyway. And they also want to add deployable turrets and walls and things along that line at some point in the future. Again, no word on when. When is the hinted close quarters weapon coming? Mid-April. Ooh, very nice. I'm guessing some sort of shotgun type weapon? But I believe in the news post they said it has some sort of interaction with lock-on missiles, so maybe you can shoot the missiles out of the sky with your shotgun, but then later on in the AMA they say that there's 2 close range items coming. Not weapons, but items. So one of them is the weapon. The other one, we don't really know. It could be anything, really. It could be a booster that'll get you closer to the enemy. It could be a close quarters shield. Who knows? All those sound really cool, actually. Damn it, now I want them. Okay, moving on. Bot changing in battle. They like it, but it is a feature that is far away. Extended weapon stat information. They are working on it, and they want to make it so it's easy and clear for noobs to understand, but they want it to be highly detailed for the pros. If you don't know what I mean, basically, if you're buying an item or you've got an item in your inventory, mouse over it, and you will see a drop-down list of the stats. A while back, these stats were a lot more detailed, but currently they've been chopping off little bits of information with every update, it seems. So I will be very happy to see a return of detailed stats. More non-premium colors. They might, but currently no plans. What is happening to mega weapons compared to smaller weapons when tiers are gone? AKA Phase 2.5, the whole tier flattening thing. So big guns will have a slow rate of fire, or I should sort of clarify, this seems to be pointing out SMGs, because he does detail what's going to happen to plasmas later on. So big guns will have a slow rate of fire, better accuracy, more damage, and a higher power usage, whereas the smaller sized guns will be the opposite. Again, that does seem to be the laser/SMG he's talking about. Tartan paint, aka a plaid style texture, if you don't know what the tartan is. I believe I'm getting it right. There is a tartan texture in MechWarrior Online, so I assume that's what they're referring to. Anyways, they have a prototype for a decal system, but it is far off. Increased monetization options. Now this is an interesting question, with an equally interesting answer. Well, I guess the answer is more interesting than the question, but, you know. Mark's stance, rather. So, let me just try that again. Mark's take is to simply improve gameplay and social features, getting players to stay and play longer. And this will bring in more money and allow them to grow their team and maybe get their own office, which will be quite nice. If you didn't know, they are currently sharing an office with another studio. So somebody asks, the meta seems to be focused on long range right now. Will this change? Yes, Mark says. April's update will bring 2 new items to help close range fighters. What could these be? One of which we have confirmed is a weapon of some sort. We don't know what the weapon is, but it is a weapon. The other one, we have no clue. Although, judging by earlier, it's most likely not a movement type. What's your take on anti-air right now? Mark says anti-air is fine, but they don't want to add any more hard anti-air in the future. And they want to improve ground mainly by focusing on the physics. So basically, tank tracks not wobbling around anymore. Ah, here we are. The plasma thing that I talked about earlier. What will plasma look like in the tier flattened system, i.e. small guns versus big guns? Bigger guns will provide a high power consumption, bigger blast radius, and a higher rate of fire. But note, he did not bring up a damage difference. So it seems like all of the plasma, regardless of size, will have the same damage. Possibly, that's just kind of what I infer from this. So the big ones will have the current Alpha Strike gameplay style that we have currently. Basically, you just vomit all of your plasma onto someone and just run away, and then stick your head out again and vomit all of your plasma one more time. And that will be versing a constant damage style for the smaller guns, which will be quite interesting, because the Soul Reaper is one of my bots. It has a single mega plasma on it, and the way that works, I treat it as a constant damage barrage, sort of mid-range type thing, and I kind of enjoy that plasma playstyle, so it will be interesting to see what the difference is once it's actually in the game. How is time to kill in your eyes? We are happy with time to kill right now. The CPU buff may lead to a higher time to kill, but this might encourage less long-range combat, such as missiles. If that is the case, they will be happy, but they will be monitoring it after the update to see how things are going. Do you like the state of Aeroflak? Somebody asks. Yes, and there is no plan to change it. What's the plan for the front-mounted laser / SMG? They are thinking it over, but they are currently looking for ideas as well. What about a light versus heavy cube system? They don't really want to add that kind of system into the game. They like a single cube system, but they are brainstorming ways so you aren't forced to use slopes for lighter builds, and you aren't forced to use cubes for heavy builds. But again, they're not really sure how to do that. Clans and custom matchmaking. So the plan is for Phase 2.5, then tutorials, and then things along those lines. Which I can get behind. I like that game plan right there. What will the leveling system look like in the next update? So I did cover this in the last episode, but I will go over this again for those of you who did miss it. Level 1, the new starting CPU will be 510, and it will be 10 CPU per level up until level 100. After level 100, you will gain 5 CPU per level until you hit the new maximum, which is level 150. And all existing level 100s will be bumped up to level 103 in order to keep their 1515 CPU under this new system. Story mode and co-op will possibly happen. So Mark's answer was, we would love to add a co-op and story mode, but this kind of goes against something that I believe Rick? Yeah, I think it was Rick. Answered on one of the live streams, saying that a co-op and story mode would be very difficult to add and quite time-consuming. So it seems like they like the idea, or at least Mark does, but it probably won't happen anytime soon, if at all. But it could be kind of interesting to see that. We haven't really fleshed out the lore. The lore does seem kind of comedic, so it would be interesting to see how they handle a story mode. Anyways, co-op piloted bots, i.e. big, beefy bots with a pilot and a gunner, or multiple gunners for that matter. Possibly mega-sized, the asker. Well, asks. And the answer is maybe, but they're not sure. What about an ETA on the rejoin feature? Rejoin is complex server-side, and like mentioned before, they're currently working on back-end server/personal tech type things, but they are getting close to finalizing that, so once that is finalized, they will have more coders to work on other things, such as the rejoin feature, which a lot of people have been wanting for a very long time, myself included. What else do we have? Quite a lot, actually. So, will you be holding a part design contest? Drognin is in charge of those kind of things, and he is open to ideas, Mark says. Will Robocraft be considered beta after Phase 2.5? I have personally said that before, based on previous information, but I guess this is a little update. So they are aiming for beta this year, and they are unsure if it will be after 2.5, or will it be after the tutorial update, or will it be after the clan update? They're not quite sure, but it will be this year. So, guys, we're finally getting in beta after probably somewhere between 3 to 3.5 years. It's a long time to be in alpha, but with this kind of game I can understand it. And their sort of corporate culture. I don't really want to call it corporate, because I'm sure Mark wouldn't really call it corporate, because something I didn't actually include in this. There's a few things, more personal, non-game related things that I left out of this. And if you guys want to go read it for yourself, I would recommend it. There are some interesting things. Again, link in the description. But what he was getting at is they're sort of a more laid-back company after Mark's experience. Because he sort of said, like, he's worked on a few games where he had to pump them out, and he just felt really bad about it, because, you know, big, huge corporate companies with their deadlines and all that. It was kind of heartbreaking, he said, so he wants to be more of a laid-back company, if that makes sense. Maybe you guys should read it. It might make a bit more sense than me trying to explain it to you guys. Anyways, this one is actually quite interesting. Any news on language localization? They have most of it done and are aiming for a launch sometime after Phase 2.5. So soon, which will be very nice. Clans. So clan features will grow over time, but they will start with a clan member list, so you can see who's online and offline, clan chat, officer ranks, and clan tags. That's just the beginning. They will branch out, like I said before. How will the energy module work? It will be a automatic recharge to your power. So, or rather, it will recharge your power faster. I believe in the most recent news post it says instead of a full 10 seconds to recharge from empty power, it will take 8 seconds to recharge. That might change because they're still sort of rebalancing things, but that will be kind of interesting. Maybe it'll be more useful in practice, but we'll just have to see. So this one is actually very interesting because we have never actually had confirmation on this before. Are you ready for this answer? Yeah, you are, probably. Will movement types get the same treatment as weapons in Phase 2.5? Yes. The sizes of movement parts will have different perks and drawbacks, just like the different weapon sizes, which I assumed was happening, but again, we never had any confirmation, so I was kind of worried that it might not happen. But now that this is the case, I will be making a multitude of different mechs in multiple sizes. I'll be doing light mechs, medium mechs, heavy mechs, super heavy mechs, ultra heavy mechs, and mega mechs. I don't know. You got the idea. This one's kind of interesting. I don't think it's ever been mentioned before, as far as I know. Gifting of robots to friends. So, say you have a friend who can't play for a while, or they're on vacation, and a new update comes out, and they get back and they're like, oh man, I've missed out on a few days to grab the required money to buy all the new parts. And they're like, don't worry, you can get a gift from me, I guess? Not entirely sure how it's going to work. Presumably, you will need the actual CPU of the bot before you can actually be gifted said bot. So if you only have, I don't know, 700 CPU, for example, someone could not gift you a bot with 900 CPU. Again, that's what I assume. He didn't actually say. So we're actually getting quite close to the end here. Will boss/challenge mode make a return? If you don't know what that was, it was a rather short-lived mode, but I quite enjoyed it. It was a few high CPU bots versus many low CPU bots. And I could see them reworking this into a very fun game mode, because it kind of seemed just shoehorned in back then. And unfortunately, the answer was kind of lacking. They don't really like the old system, where players were sucked into the game mode that they didn't really want to go into, or maybe they did want to go into, but they didn't end up going into it. And they don't really want to do that anymore, but he never actually went further into the topic, so it neither confirms or denies a return of it, but judging by the tone of the post, probably not. But hey, you never know. What about nonsense, quote-unquote, builds, such as aerofoils fully enveloped by blocks? Mark says that they want to improve aerofoils by having an airflow mechanic. They want to do this for wings, rudders, and rotors, but the mechanic is far off. And finally, last but not least, can you please improve the forums? So, like Drogonin said a while back, Mark II does hate the tech of the forums. He wants a sort of upvote system. Something along those lines, and presumably more features to improve the forums. I'm hoping, personally, for an improved background and color scheme, because the forums are just kind of dark and dreary looking. It's kind of depressing, actually. But hey, that's just my opinion. Anyways, so, that will actually close out the video. If you guys weren't aware, this was a post-commentary and not a live commentary, hence why I wasn't getting distracted by all the crazy things that happened on screen. What you are seeing on screen was just B-roll that I picked up. I figured that I'd throw in some Megabots into the mix there because they're getting removed soon. So get your Megabot fix while you still can. Aha! I believe that update comes on the 4th, so not a whole lot of time left. Anyways, I guess I will go ahead and end the episode here. I don't know how long it's been, but it's probably a fairly long episode. Let me know what you guys think of anything I talked about in this little, well, say, not a little, a rather long episode. And again, you can go into the description and read the AMA for yourself. I obviously didn't add any user feedback or user comments, just the actual questions. At least the questions that made sense to the game. So, with that, I will end it here. I've been the Awesome Soul. I thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Take care.